Welcome, welcome, welcome to the second installation of our AI series with the Special Education Technology Center. And today we are going to be talking all about, is this cheating, right? Is using artificial intelligence cheating in our classrooms, in our schools? So before I go ahead and kick this off nice and big, what I'm going to do is make sure that my live captions are turned on. I am using Microsoft PowerPoint. So what I'm going to do is go to slideshow. I'm going to go to captions and subtitles. I have my subtitles turned on already, which is great. And they are in English, which is the language that I speak. So when I go ahead and I go to from beginning, you will see the subtitles appear at the bottom of my screen. So I always like to do that for accessibility. But once again, welcome to this artificial intelligence session. Today, we are going to be talking about, is it cheating? So that's the title for today, is it cheating? My name is Victoria Thompson. Here's a little bit about me. Won't go over all of this, but I live in Winter Garden, Florida. I used to live in Washington State. We have relocated to Winter Garden. It's a suburb of Orlando. I live about 25 minutes from Disney World and Universal Studios. If any of y'all are theme park fans, Harry Potter fans, any of that stuff. I do work at Microsoft Education, so that is my day job. I am a customer success account manager, or CSAM, where I work with schools and districts all across the state of Florida just to bring technology solutions to them. But I also do really fun things like work with the awesome folks at the Special Education Technology Center to not only just bring awareness to different types of technology that we can utilize in our roles, but also think critically about what we can do to use technology to elevate learning in a lot of different areas. My background has always been education. So I was an educator in 5th and 6th grade math and science. I was also an instructional coach. So this is South Carolina and Washington State. And my dog is in the photo with me as well. He is the real star of the internet. But that's enough about me. Let's talk a little bit about why we're here today and also what artificial intelligence is. So before we kick that off, I would like to point out that this is the second in a 4-part series. If you missed the first part, which was the introduction to artificial intelligence or AI in education, I believe that that is up and current on the Special Education Technology Center's website. So please make sure you check it out. That's where I did a huge introduction on what AI is, how AI plays into education. Today, we're going to be talking about academic integrity and ethics by using artificial intelligence in education. Then in part 3, we are going to be talking about using artificial intelligence for lesson planning. And then in part 4, we are going to be talking about using artificial intelligence to drive educational outcomes. So, alrighty. So I like to kick off my AI sessions just by giving a very quick debrief as to what it is. I feel like every time I talk to educators and school leaders, we all have different interpretations about what artificial intelligence is and also how artificial intelligence can help the classroom. It can also help to make our lives simpler. It can also automate certain processes like grading or responses. Because there are so many different areas of artificial intelligence, I like to set the scene by describing what it actually is. So here's what it is. If you are to go into a dictionary and you say, or you look up artificial intelligence, you will likely receive some semblance of this definition. Artificial intelligence, or AI, is the ability of a digital computer or computer-controlled robot to perform tasks that are commonly associated with human beings. For example, if I go onto my phone, right? Again, I have a new phone, y'all. If you've been here with me for a while, because I've been doing these webinars with y'all for like 3 years, I used to have an iPhone 8. It's actually right next to me, right? So old phone, new phone, old phone, new phone. But on the new phone, what I can do is I can actually utilize artificial intelligence to do things like call my parents, to do things like order more laundry detergent, to do things like check on different areas of my home and see what's around. I could typically do that by myself. Like if I want to call my mom right now, I can type in her phone number and I can call her. But what if I say call mom, and hopefully my phone isn't doing it right now, but if I say call mom, then my phone can do it for me. or like an Alexa can do it for me, or an Echo Dot or a Google Home or whatever can do it for you. So these are things that computers or computer-controlled robots can do for you. That's it. Now, I love this definition because it's so broad. When we go into artificial intelligence in education, we really get nitty gritty, but really that's all AI is. If a computer can do something for you, something that's commonly associated with what we do as human beings, that's AI. Now, if we dive deeper into artificial intelligence or AI for education, if we think about having those computer tasks, this really does have the potential to address some of the biggest topics in education today, and also to help us innovate teaching and learning practices. Here's an example. I have worked with so many students and still work with students where read aloud or oral presentation on exams, assessments, quizzes, any of that stuff is an accommodation in an IEP or a 504. Sometimes I've been in a class where in a class of 26, I might have 18 kids of that accommodation. However, with artificial intelligence, I can still read aloud, but also there are systems within the computer where the computer will read aloud to the student. They can hear my voice, but they can also have it reinforced by the computer as well. That's amazing. That leans into the accommodation for the student. And it also makes my life a little bit simpler as the educator, because I remember if I had 18 kids and 20 out of a class of 26 that needed that accommodation, I would just read aloud to the whole class. And then sometimes kids would do it at their own pace. Sometimes they would follow along with me. It didn't matter as long as I still did it. With artificial intelligence, it can all happen at the student's own pace and also help them with their learning as well. So I love it. Artificial intelligence in education can also refer to a lot of different things, but these are the big three that tend to come up a lot. If you've got students who are English language learners or ELL, AI can absolutely help with that. If you also are working with students who may be neurodivergent, artificial intelligence, again, can help address some of those challenges and help them in their learning. And then also you might have students that might not necessarily be identified, but they still need additional support. I think we've all been there with students at some point where we're wondering if there's more that we can do to help them, but we're just not sure how, and they're also not sure what they need yet. Artificial intelligence can assist with all of this. And I'm going to be giving some examples today, that way you can actually see the awesomeness of how this all pans out. But it's just so cool. There's a lot of opportunity here. And with opportunity, this also comes with some challenges. So this is the whole reason why we're here today, y'all. We're trying to figure out, with these advances in AI, is this cheating or is it not cheating? So before I even go any further, I'm going to stop sharing this screen. And if you don't exactly know what I'm talking about, I want to make it really clear before we really get started, so that way you can see what these things can do. So give me just a second as I switch screens. Awesome. Y'all should be able to see my screen right now. I am on something called ChatGPT. If you have never been on ChatGPT before, it is cool. And it's also a little scary sometimes. And I say scary not because I'm scared of it, but it's scary good with some of the things that it could do. So you'll see that down here, it's a lot of different things. You can suggest fun activities, help me study, plan a trip, come up with concepts. Let's say non-academic related, I want to plan a trip to Walt Disney World. Like I said, I live very close. I go every day. So what I'm trying to say is, hey, if I have a family member coming in and if I can't take them to Disney, what would be the best arena for them to go about? So in here, in the message, this is like a search bar, I'm going to say, plan a trip to Walt Disney World for a family of 4 that does not like to ride roller coasters. I'm going to press send, and here we go. All right, this is it. So you'll see that took what, 4 seconds? Planning a trip to Walt Disney World for a family that doesn't like roller coasters can be a magical experience. I do agree. I had a friend here not too long ago that also doesn't like to go on roller coasters, and we had a great time. There are plenty of other attractions. Notice how it says the duration, 5 days, 4 nights. Day 1, this is the arrival. Day 2, we're going to Magic Kingdom, apparently. Day 3, Epcot. Day 4, Animal Kingdom. Day 5, Hollywood Studios. Day 6, we depart. Notice how it also has additional tips like making dining reservations in advance, taking advantage of extra magic hours. That's only if you stay on property, but they are there. Stay hydrated, take breaks throughout the day. I could do this myself and give this to my friends who might be wanting to visit. However, notice how this did it in all of 4 seconds. So this was non-education related. You can literally plan a trip to Disney by utilizing AI. And I love that note in the chat box. This is the perfect example of how AI is biased. Totally agreed. All right, so let's go non-theme park and let's say instead, let's say that I'm like an 8th grade science student and I want to know about the element of oxygen. So I'm going to say, please write a 5-paragraph essay on the element oxygen. So let's say that I might have like a paper that I'm writing, just like a small thing about the element of oxygen. Okay, here we go. Again, 4 seconds-ish. And notice how it gave me what I needed. Oxygen with the chemical symbol O, the atomic number 8, is one of the most essential elements on Earth. It's colorless, odorless, tasteless. It comprises a significant portion of the atmosphere. It's fundamental for life. It has a fascinating history. It was discovered in the late 18th century, blah, 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 all these things. If I'm in 8th grade, basically what I'm saying is I can go to ChatGPT and say, write this, and it will. That's why this is such a concern right now, because in theory, if we were to be giving an assessment to a student and it would basically say, hey, do this one thing, ChatGPT could really help them out. Not only could it really help them out, but it could basically do it for them, right? However, if we take a look deeper into what it means to utilize AI, because again, this is just one AI function. I wanted to showcase ChatGPT because that's definitely one of the most popular right now. But let's talk a little bit just about what that looks like and why that's important to us. So give me just another second as I get back to my other screen. Okay. And I'm going to make it nice and big again with the captions. There we go. So part of the reason why this is so important to us is because in a very recent study, about 72% of professors in higher education and also about 58% of K through 12 educators were concerned about AI being used to cheat on assignments and also on assessments. I remember when this first started becoming more of a thing. When I was in school, we would go to like Google or we might go to Ask Jeeves and we would ask something and we'd get a response. Or I remember Smarter Child, which was an AI bot that you could ask like what's the weather or how are you doing today? This is very different from things that we used to grow up with because we're not just giving the prompt and it's giving a simple 1-sentence answer. We are giving the prompt and it's giving us what we want. And for a lot of us, and for students too, that can be liberating, but that can also be very intimidating. So when I think about assessment in the realm of ChatGPT and AI and all of these things, my mind goes to how are we creating these assessments so that way we're not so concerned about whether or not they're using it. We are thinking critically about how they are using it. Because let's take this one step further. If we look at what cheating or academic dishonesty is, it can take many forms. And I think we've all been in situations where we've either seen or perhaps have experienced this in our world in school. Maybe you've seen somebody pretend that somebody else's work is theirs when it's really yours, or it might belong to somebody else. I'm an adjunct professor at a university down here in Florida, and I have the plagiarism talk every single year because paraphrasing and citing is awesome, but you can't just straight up take somebody else's work and think that it's yours. And cite your sources is something I say constantly, but with ChatGPT and AI and all of these functions, it's like, who do we cite? right? That can be challenging for us to figure out. On top of that, falsifying data, that's cheating or academic dishonesty. It's not good when we do that. And then I always like to throw this out there as well. Lying in order to maybe extend deadlines, gain special advantages, those aren't great, right? These are not things that we like to hear or that we like to experience. However, it does happen. So if I think, again, back to what I shared and showcased with y'all with the AI, with the two things I did, there were no sources. It can't really tell you where it got it from because it created it from a conglomerate of different types of resources. So if we remove that element from it and we look just at what cheating is a form of violation of academic integrity. It's considered morally wrongful behavior in any academic setting. However, if we go one more step further, the use of artificial intelligence or AI tools, it doesn't necessarily constitute academic dishonesty. And here's the reason why I say that. It's not like we're just straight up copy pasting, or we're not right now, right? What we're doing is we're utilizing artificial intelligence just to explore what's possible. You'll notice that the prompts that I gave, it wasn't cut and dry and nothing was being graded. It's just show me what you got, right? Show me what you got. Once we actually examine and see what's there, we might be able to modify and adjust and use that more as a blueprint than the actual thing that we're turning in. And here are some examples of things that, again, I just pulled from the internet, again, sources. But this was when ChatGPT first came out, and there was a professor here that was playing with the OpenAI chatbot, and they were commenting that it was just mind-blowing. They even went as far as to say that we're witnessing the death of the college essay in real time. And this was a prompt from a 200-level history course, again, a collegiate level. Can you write me a 4-paragraph academic essay comparing and contrasting the theories of nationalism of Benedict Anderson and Ernest Gellner? And here it is, right? 4 paragraphs. So this is a 4-paragraph academic essay. So that can be challenging when we first look at it and say, here's everything that it's capable of. But then if I take a look at what ChatGPT and all these AI functions actually say, you're going to get a response like this. So this was a friend of mine. Is this chatbot being used to cheat? And the chatbot said, as an AI language model, I am not being used to cheat or engage in any unethical or dishonest activities. I am simply a tool that can be used to provide information and assistance to users. It is up, and I love this last sentence, it is up to the user to decide how to use the information and resources that I provide in a responsible and ethical manner. And to me, that's what it's all about. I view artificial intelligence the same way that I viewed an encyclopedia when I was younger, the same way that I viewed an atlas, the same way that I viewed Ask Jeeves when I was like 8 years old, the same way that I viewed Yahoo or AOL. I view this service with artificial intelligence the exact same way. Now, it doesn't operate the same way, but I view it the same way. It is up to the user to decide how to use the information and the resources that are provided in a responsible and an ethical manner. Now, the question becomes, how do we do that, right? Like if we're working with students or if we're working alone, how do we decide what's ethical and what's not? So what we're going to do is just kind of walk through a couple of different scenarios, and we're going to kick it off by talking about these 3 things. These 3 things, you can see I kind of have like a 3 circle Venn diagram here. At the intersection of this is where we can be ethical with artificial intelligence and AI principles, period. The first thing that we need to consider is the tool itself. This is the actual artificial intelligence. If I'm using an AI tool, I need to make sure that I, 1, know how to use it, and 2, that I'm getting what I need out of it. That's number 1. At the intersection of artificial intelligence and the work that we want to provide is academic integrity, right? Academic integrity is very important. I want to make sure that I'm turning in my work. I want to make sure that my sources are cited. I want to make sure that I have the right resources. I want to make sure that I'm giving credit where credit is due. That's academic integrity. We don't want for our students or for ourselves to turn in things that aren't ours. And even though some students, and even ourselves, sometimes we might want to take the easy way out, that's not an academic integrity type thing to do. So at the intersection of our work is artificial intelligence and the academic integrity. The piece of the puzzle that I don't see people talking a lot about that I would like to bring to the forefront are assessment principles. How are we assessing students to get from point A to point B? How are we working with our colleagues to identify these assessment principles? The reason why I say this is because we really have to take a deep dive at assessment and how we want to do things with our students in order to figure out how they're using artificial intelligence. Because if we can give just a simple prompt, they very might well be able to use artificial intelligence in order to turn something in. If our assessment is more complex, or if we have more prompts, then it's a little bit more challenging. And it's not that we want to make things more challenging for students, but we do want it to be rigorous. You know, we don't want to have them freaking out because it's taking them forever to write this paper, but we do want the rigor to be there. We want the standards to be there. And that's where the assessment principles come in. All of these three things, I know it's in circles, but I kind of view it as like a trifecta, right? Like a triangle, because they all come together to make wonderful, solid assessments. And when that happens, then we can begin to continue to utilize AI in fantastic ways. So to sum it up, when we focus on using artificial intelligence to enhance our products, we can generate better outcomes. If the focus is just on, okay, they're using AI, how do we get them to stop using AI? What is AI? I don't want them using AI. They're going to be using it anyway to a degree. How do we focus on using artificial intelligence to enhance our product? Because when we do, then we begin to generate better outcomes all around. And with that being said, I'm going to show you all a couple of examples. So we're going to do the ChatGPT challenge. This is one that I do with students all the time. I do it with faculty and staff too. It's really, really fun. Then we're going to talk about just kind of creating something for the moons of Jupiter, kicking it back to science again. We're going to also talk about creating an outline, and then we're going to be taking a look at mathematics assessments. As I mentioned earlier, I started with ChatGPT because that's kind of the most common one that folks are using right now. We're going to bounce around a bit because there's AI everywhere. So there's no need to just focus on ChatGPT. We're going to be focusing on a lot of different things. So I'm going to stop sharing this screen. And then once again, I'm going to kick it back over to the other screen that I had. So please give me just a moment. All righty. Going to go ahead and share right now. Just waiting for my screen to load. All right. So you should all be able to see my screen where I was previously, and this was what we just did with ChatGPT. So I instructed for it to do, or rather create, a Disney World vacation for a family of 4 that does not like to ride roller coasters. And then I also wanted it to write a 5-paragraph essay on the element of oxygen. These are all pretty, well, not all of them. The first one was not school specific, but the oxygen one was. What I always encourage folks to do, especially if they've never used artificial intelligence like this before, is you can do a version of looking yourself up here. So that's exactly what I'm going to do. The parameters that I give myself, my students, and my colleagues is that if you're on social media, which several of us are, what you can do, type your name, whatever link or social media handle you are, and then biography, and then just see what it says. The reason why I start with this with students, faculty, and staff is because remember how I said ChatGPT can be scary good and how AI can be scary good? Watch what it says about you. because then you can determine what's good and what's not. So the last time I did this, I have one saved just in case, but sometimes there are quite a few Victoria Thompsons. One is, she works out of Oregon for like a big radio company. Another one lives out of Vancouver, Washington, with her husband and her 3 children. I can confirm I do not have a husband. I do not have 3 children, but I'm going to do Victoria Thompson, Victoria, the tech biography. All right. So sometimes this does happen. It says, I'm sorry, I couldn't find any specific information, blah, blah, blah. So let's try one more time. Again, I do have one saved. So let's do Victoria Thompson. Let's do Victoria, the tech Twitter biography. Okay. Looks like it's thinking. While it's thinking, I'm going to make sure my laptop is plugged in, because we don't want my laptop to die. Okay. Here we go. So you see what it's saying. I apologize for any confusion. I don't have access to any real-time or specific Twitter account information, including the biography of myself. All right, I'm going to stop generating here. Going down, 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 down. And I'm going here. So this was a very long time ago. This was actually in March. So what I did was I wrote, and again, notice how the technology changes, right? In March, it could do it. It's October and it's not doing it for me. But it said, I wrote biography for Victoria Thompson at Victoria the Tech on Twitter. And notice what it says about me. This is an okay biography of myself. I'm a prominent technology expert, speaker, and writer. I've been recognized as one of the top 100 women in tech. I've experienced in technology and tech and leadership, and I deliver keynote speeches, and I'm a writer, and blah, blah, blah. What I always like to do with students and faculty and staff is I'm looking at this and it's not specific. Like it gives a pretty high level overview of who I am, but it's not super nitty gritty about who I am and what I do. So if a kid were to give this to me, like if somebody were to be writing a research paper about me and my life, I wouldn't necessarily give this a failing grade, but I would send it back. And I'd be like, hey, this is way too vague. Because if I go to my bio, which I was just working on not too long ago, adding some stuff. So it's way more specific, right? I'm a CSAM at Microsoft Education. I'm an ISTE community leader. I lived in Seattle for a bit. I was over the educator programs and the showcase schools. I presented at all these different conferences. I won these awards. When I look for a biography, that's the kind of stuff that I'm looking for, not this. So this is a really good entryway to work with people on artificial intelligence, because it just goes to show artificial intelligence knows a lot, but it doesn't know you. So this is how I kick off those conversations, because it can write about the moons of Jupiter, it can write about oxygen, but you notice it didn't know everything, or even like the minutia about me. Now, not that I would expect for it to know every single thing about me, but what I am saying is you can tell that it was written by a computer because it wasn't specific enough. So let's think about that for a second. If we can tell what's specific and what's not, this can also help us identify how artificial intelligence can help our students. Because think about it. If I take a look at this biography, again, I would probably send this back to a student and I would say, let's go a little bit more in depth. But this is a pretty solid outline. It doesn't have everything, but it is a pretty solid outline. So this is how you can work with students on that. Here's another one. Like I said, for Jupiter, a gas giant. If I were to go ahead and I would type in, write a paper about the planet Jupiter, it gives me an abstract with the paper providing an in-depth exploration of Jupiter. It's the largest planet in our solar system, blah, blah. It's got the introduction, formation and composition, physical characteristics, blah, blah, blah. Again, if a kid were to turn this into me, I would say this is too high level. Not high level meaning that this is too above your level, but I asked for a paper and you're giving me all these things like what's the formation and consumption? What is the moon system? I want this to be like a student wrote it. However, sometimes students can get kind of stuck looking at this. So what a student can do is take a look and they can say, okay, let's say that today I want to focus on composition of Jupiter. Something really cool with AI that you can do as well is speech to text. So everything that I was doing earlier with the captions, that's also artificial intelligence. So let's say right here that I want to add a page, I'm going to call it Jupiter. Right now I'm in OneNote, which if you've been here for a while, you know, OneNote is one of my favorite note-taking apps. I use it constantly. But part of the reason why I love OneNote is because of the speech-to-text features and also the translation features. Once again, this is all artificial intelligence. So let's say that I'm over here in my ChatGPT OpenAI, and I'm seeing that, okay, I'm going to talk about the composition of Jupiter. And let's say that I'm talking that it's hydrogen and helium. It's similar to the composition of an early solar nebula, and it's the biggest planet in our solar system, right? All right, so I'm going to my immersive reader. I'm going to press this buddy up here. This is dictate. When I speak into my computer, it will hear me talk and take it down. Jupiter is mostly made up of hydrogen and helium. It is also the largest planet in our solar system. All right, pretty cool. I'm going to make this nice and big, that way we can see. And here we go. If you've got students that really struggle with putting pencil to paper or pen to paper, this is miraculous for them. Because instead of spending 20 minutes getting something down, that took all of what? 30 seconds. Now, once again, if a kid were to give this to me, I wouldn't necessarily fail them, but I would send it back because it's missing what? Punctuation. The great thing about speech to text with AI is they've already got that figured out for us. So let's try it out. Jupiter is mostly made up of hydrogen and helium, period. It is also the largest planet in our solar system, exclamation point. All right, here we go. The second one looks better than the first one. So if I were a kid, what I would do is I would just go ahead, I would delete this. And something else that I can do too is put it into my buddy Immersive Reader. I'm going to go to View, and I'm going to go to Immersive Reader. Once again, this is all in OneNote, but you can do this in Word, PowerPoint, all that stuff. So if I want to have it read aloud to me, I can. Again, that is the artificial intelligence working with us and helping us. And then on top of that too, if I want to translate to a different language, I can. Because in Immersive Reader, it's got over 50 different languages. So let's say that I've got a student that speaks, working with a student the other day. She speaks Haitian Creole. I'm going to translate the document in Haitian Creole. I've got my Haitian Creole over to the right-hand side. I've got my original over to the left-hand side. I can toggle back and forth between the two. There are some languages that are not supported with the playback feature yet. Haitian Creole is one of them. However, let's say that instead I wanted to translate this to Greek for the document. I've got my Greek off to the right-hand side. I've got my original off to the left-hand side, and you can even have it read aloud there. Again, this is all from artificial intelligence. All I had to do is click some buttons, or as I call it, clickety-clack until the computer talks back. But all I had to do was click some buttons, and that's how we got here. Really cool stuff. Really cool stuff. All right. So with that outline that I showed you over here, you can also do some more things within artificial intelligence. And again, breaking from just kind of what we think about AI and how it can help in the sense of writing for you, it can also help you solve problems. So I'm going to kick it back real quick, and we're going to take a look at a math assessment. We're going to do this in two ways. The first thing I'm going to do is go to Microsoft Forms. I do a lot of my quizzes with my students in here because I like the math features. And if any of y'all are math or STEM, you're going to love this. So what I'm going to do is up here in the top left, I'm going to create a new quiz. Quiz allows for grading capabilities. So that's why I didn't select new form. I said new quiz. For Untitled Quiz, I'm going to name this, let's do double-digit multiplication. And I'm also going to make this bigger so that way we can see it. And let's say that I just want a 5-question warm-up for my students on double-digit multiplication, right? That's it. I'm going to add a new question. I'm going to do it multiple choice. And I'm going to say, please solve the following math problem. Following multiplication problem. Going to be more specific there. I've got some options down here. You'll notice it's just kind of giving me different applications that I have open on my computer. So the AI is working in that respect. It notices what I have open. It's like, choose me. But I want math. That's what I want on here. I want math. This is double-digit multiplication. I want the math functions. So with double-digit multiplication, you'll see that even though I'm focusing just on that, we've got applications all the way up to calculus, right? We got logarithms, natural logs, matrices, sums, all these different things. So I want, let's say 32 times 12. Let's start there. So when I say 32 times 12, you'll see that I've got all my different answers here, and I didn't have to type it in. The artificial intelligence did it for me. That's amazing. So I'm going to add all these options in. When I add my options in here, and I don't like the right answer being the first one, so I'm going to move it around a little bit. I'm going to add 1 point. I usually make all my multiple choice warm-ups 1 point because they can technically just kind of click around. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a new question because, again, I want 5 problems. And here we go. These are recommended problems that are based off of what I already did. I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to add them all. And because I wanted 5 questions, I can also add another multiple choice. This one I'll just kind of come up for myself. So please solve following multiplication problem. And let's do maybe 13 times 90. There we go. Once again, my answers are here. I'm going to add them here, switch it around a bit, and voila, magic. That's my warm-up. So instead of sitting down and maybe spending 10, 15, 30 minutes on creating a warm-up for my students, I was able to do that in about 3 minutes. That's amazing. Now, let's say that I want to give this out to my students. There's one challenge here. This is only in one language, English. If I were a student, I can actually select these 3 dots up above. I can enable Immersive Reader, that cool tool that I showed y'all before. And when I select it, I can actually open up Immersive Reader, have this math problem read aloud to me, and I can also change it into different languages as well. So if I, let's say I have it here, and I want to put this into Portuguese, boom, there's my Portuguese, there's my original. I can toggle back and forth. It's very, very cool. And again, this is all artificial intelligence. Now, I remember when I was a student, something like this I could do myself, but I also want to fact check and make sure that I'm doing okay. So this is where my AI buddy, WolframAlpha, comes into play. WolframAlpha is kind of math specific. They got a lot of other stuff in here too. They've come a long way since when I first started working with this, because one of my college professors actually recommended we utilize WolframAlpha for the computational intelligence because it can show you step-by-step solutions, which is so cool. So what I'm going to do is go to step-by-step. You'll see that there are solutions that you can actually solve in real time. Once again, this is artificial intelligence. So let's take a look at this quadratic right here. X squared plus 5x plus 6 equals 0. You'll notice that it's got all the different forms where the zeros are on a number line, the solutions, the sum of the roots, all of these really cool things. However, what I'm interested in is step-by-step solutions. When you actually take a look at step-by-step solutions within this artificial intelligence, look, my dog is so excited. He wants to hop up on my, there you go. Come on. There we go. He gets so excited about math. He just wants to come up and say hello. If we take a look at the solutions that are here, you can see that you can show all of the steps. And this is revolutionary for students because they can see the mathematical processes. And this is not just set to math within this program. You can show step-by-step solutions for a lot of different things on WolframAlpha. And again, this is coming from that AI or that artificial intelligence. So what's cool is that if I were to maybe give this to students, if I were to say x squared plus 5x plus 6 equals 0, they could pretty easily type this into WolframAlpha or maybe ChatGPT or maybe a math solver and they can find it. If I turn this into a story problem or a word problem, I call them story problems. If we turn this into a story problem, then it's not going to be as easily accessible for them to utilize things like WolframAlpha, math solvers, ChatGPT, and those things. So once again, it boils down to how we want to utilize assessment. Not only does it boil down to how we want to utilize assessment, but it's also how are we using these tools to elevate learning? Because I can see this working wonders with homework, with classwork. If I go back to the form that I created for the quiz, this can work wonders with assessment. If I go back to what I did with the read aloud features, this can do great for things like doing daily journals. I did a math memoir with my students where basically every day we would just talk about math and we write about math. And some of them wanted to type it out. Some of them wanted to do it out loud. And that was awesome. But essentially, these AI tools give students agency to create and do more things. And it also gives us more capabilities to see what they can do. So the power is really in our hands when we think about what we want to do to utilize AI in our classrooms and schools. But the bottom line for me is that it's not necessarily cheating, right? And I really want to take it back to the two things that I spoke about in the beginning. And you're going to bear with me 1 second while I bring my screen back up again. Because if you remember, I spoke about how the use of artificial intelligence or AI tools, it doesn't necessarily constitute academic dishonesty. We saw the chatbot in the very beginning say that it's up to the user to identify how they ethically want to use the tools and use these processes. And then on top of that too, truly, if we focus on using artificial intelligence to enhance whatever we're doing, what happens at the end of the day is that we are generating better outcomes for ourselves, for our students, and also for our schools. So before we go ahead and turn it over to questions, in case you might have some, here's how you can contact me if you've got any more questions, informations, if you want to chat outside of this, once everything is done. I'm very friendly, so please do not be a stranger. Here's my contact information. That is my personal email, my Twitter handle or X, whatever we're calling it these days, and then also my LinkedIn. So all of that information is right there for you. And on top of that, just wanted to give another shout out to the fact that this is the second in a 4-part series. So the next time that we meet, we are going to be talking about using artificial intelligence for lesson planning. And then for the last iteration of this series, we're going to be talking about using artificial intelligence to drive educational outcomes.